Yeah, we could go ahead and end this conversation. My name is none of your business, by the way. You've been running away from my conversations this whole entire time like a bitch. So you can just go ahead and call me that, right? So at the end of the day, when
I had a guest on the show on the live stream who came in and he was very passionate about the topic. And I'm just gonna get into the video so you guys can see what I'm talking about, and I'll explain it to you and give a little breakdown of how of what I was thinking while this was going on. But maybe I'll have him on again so he can fully so we can fully have a real debate. But really, what I was going for was Kevin Samuels for Dr. Umar Johnson, and this guy kind of weaseled his way into getting on the platform before he showed up as a guy named Jesse. His name was Nanya Business. All right, and I seen that as a troll link, so I wasn't going to invite him in because previously on live streams I've had uh, white kids come on saying the N word, getting me demonetized, getting the whole live stream demonetized. So I didn't want that same occurrence, and I thought that maybe with the guy name with the name Nanya Business and no camera on, that this was his angle, this is what he's gonna do. But actually he had a different take, and I want you guys to hear it because I feel like I just want you guys to hear. Let's get into the video. I ain't trying to waste no more of y'all time. Let's get to it. All right. I'm tired of buying t-shirts. I want to support y'all, but let's be more creative in the avenues of where we go. Okay, with our business ventures. You ain't gotta sell t-shirts or mixtapes or goddamn or soul food. And if you're gonna sell soul food, I will happily support you because I love it. But just make sure it's there when I get there. All right, yeah, we gotta have some unity, but we gotta have some standards too. And you gotta, man, black folks gotta be held accountable for them standards, brother. I understand I'm supposed to support black businesses, but you got some chicken at the chicken joint. You get where I'm going with it. All right, so we gotta have standards. All right. Anybody, Jesse, let's see what Jesse got to say. Hello.
hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's a little echoey, but I got you.
You got me. All right, cool. So, where are you from?
I am from Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where I was born.
Where's your parents from? Is your parents a descendant of American slaves, or are they from another country?
To my belief, to my knowledge, my parents are descendants, American descendants of slavery. Yes.
Okay, American descendants of slavery is a misnomer. It's actually supposed to be descendants of American slaves. But
Okay.
all of these, all.
So this is a tactic that some people use. They like to pick at small details of your language to make you seem like you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so he gets what I'm saying, and that is the purpose of communication. The purpose of communication is for me to be able to talk to you and for you to understand what I'm saying. He understands what I'm saying, but he feels the need to nitpick at what I'm saying because he's trying to already discredit me and make me seem uneducated. But let's continue the video because there's more to get from it. Let's keep going.
All these contextless conversations, when you guys talk about blackness, you can't really talk about blackness outside of the context of America, right? So a black person in Nigeria, right, has a different experience than a black person in from the Caribbean, has a different experience from a black person in Mississippi, right? So for instance, when somebody brought up about the Willie Lynch letter, you were saying previously that black women have a huge amount of like fatherless homes, right? Did you also read the Negro Marriage? Did you read that?
No, I have not read the Negro Marriage yet.
The Negro Marriage is a 2-paragraph part of Willie Lynch's letter, where it basically talks about a plan for slaves, and basically it's saying that it plans to have a fatherless home in order for the female slave to raise their children in basically in a way that supports slavery, right? So they'll raise the female child as an independent woman. They'll raise the male child as very physically strong but mentally weak, right? When you learn about that,
I've heard of it. Then, I maybe was thinking of it as something else, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But where do you got a conclusion for it?
No, the conclusion is a large amount of these contextless conversations need to be brought into context. So when you're saying black, you're saying something that's just generic. You're talking to all the black African diaspora, but we are here in America. So you have to use that term.
Are we here to specify on ADOS?
No, it's not ADOS, first of all. It's not ADOS.
Are we here to specify on whatever way you want to say these words? So I would relate some of this to when people go, oh, you can't say the word gay anymore, or you're some kind of ist. The thing about this kind of concept is they take power by destroying your freedom of speech, by saying, no, you can't say that. Or you're wrong. They try to discredit you through what you say. So if I say, if I speak up about women and I say something about women, they go, you're a sexist right away. And what that does is that puts them on a higher level playing field. That gives them leverage in the conversation because they know that humans are empathetic for the most part. And when it comes to dogma, humans don't like it. So if they know that you're a sexist or a racist, they'll automatically take 2 steps back and be reluctant to defend you or to stand next to you because they don't want to also be seen as a sexist or a racist. So, I'm aware of these tricks, and I know what's coming at this point in the argument or in the discussion. I wouldn't even call it an argument. And when I see that there's a bunch of never mind, I'll just keep going. I ain't trying to hold y'all for too long. Let's just keep going. I just wanted to jump in and say at this point, I'm kind of checking out already because I know where it's going. And usually when you talk to black folks about slavery, there's so much emotion involved that it doesn't go anywhere if you don't want to talk about slavery. If you want to talk about progression and results and trying to get to the next level, when people are so engulfed in slavery, it seems to be hard for some people to get past that level. And I've had this discussion numerous times. I've had this discussion so many times that I do get a little disinterested when I hear these conversations because it's old. Like I feel like it's the same conversation. But let's continue the video to get into Jesse's point specifically.
For instance, let's take it back to Kevin Samuelson, right? Or Kevin Samuels, correct?
This is what I'm asking. You here for like are you here to like to tell me if you think that this debate is something that should happen, or are you here to talk about?
Well, both of them are wrong.
Like the very specifics of what I say in terms of whether I'm saying black people or
Kevin
or Nigerians.
No. Kevin Samuels and Umar Johnson are wrong. Kevin Samuels is just selling a product to black people, black people, right? Contextless. He's not talking about white supremacy in America. He's not talking about how white supremacy has a goal to break up black families. And that goal specifically is to make black or specifically descendants of American slave women independent and mannish, right? So that mannish behavior that we criticize under the banner of MGTOW, that mannish behavior is a planned thing. It's something that way back from the 1700s was planned to happen in quote unquote descendants of American slave women in order to break up their families, in order to misraise their children, correct? So that lack of history means that you're having conversations out of context.
Well, see, my problem with his argument now is that he's arguing that historically speaking, since we've come to America, black families have had a ton of dysfunction, and that's just not true. In the 60s and before, black women adopted the feminist movement, and I think that there are a lot of other content creators that would agree with me here. And if I'm wrong, correct me. But until the 60s, black men and black women were together. We were still jumping the broom. Okay, and this is what I did at my wedding. As tradition, I jumped the broom with my wife. Okay, we were still jumping the broom even during slavery. Okay, what happened was we got separated because black women married the government through feminism. Okay, they said we don't need the man because the man's locked up now because they're all away for drug charges. We don't need them anymore. Okay, so let's become independent and follow this feminist movement, who have had no history of supporting black women, by the way. White women got the right to vote way before black women did. So they adopted this idea, and for a long time and for a little while, it worked for them. Okay, they got benefits from the government, and they felt like they didn't need a man. But the truth is, the government just became their dad. You don't really see this breakup until later on in history. So saying that the Willie Lynch letter or the Willie Lynch promotion was a direct effect on African Americans, why didn't we see those effects earlier on? Why did we just see those effects conveniently enough right when the feminist movement came along? And I know, okay, because have you ever talked about religion to people, or just something that you just disagree with, but it's so embedded in them that you know that this is going to be a 3-hour long conversation if you want to come to any conclusions, if it ever does come to any conclusions. I've had these conversations many a times, these quote unquote debates. I turn them into discussions nowadays. So what you'll see me doing is allowing him to talk so that I can respond with a question. A very simple question is what I do in these discussions. Okay, I just respond with questions because I know that if I make statements or spit facts, logic doesn't intertwine well with emotion. So when a person becomes too emotionally invested, they don't care about anything you have to say in terms of statistics or facts or logic. They don't care. All right, so let's continue the video. I'm really bringing this up because I want for more black folks to get out of this mindset. Okay, we know it happened. We get it, all right? I know what's happened. I understand that the police came from the slave patrols, this and this and that. You got to be careful, watch out. But I can't go outside and be afraid because I got to get to a result. I have to come up with a solution to our problem. So I can't work in fear. I'm restricted if I work in fear. Okay, so let me go do what I got to do to get a bag so that I can give back to the community. Because none of this happens without capital. None of this happens. You can't save the yellow spotted owls if you don't have no money. Okay, you see Bill and Melinda Gates going out here injecting stuff into African kids and doing this and doing that. Well, that's because they have the money to. Without the money, you don't get Martin Luther King movement. You don't get Black Panther Party. You don't get Malcolm X. It takes capital, and you can't build capital if you're afraid to go out into the world because slavery. Let's continue the video.
You have a conversation like, and I know you've already saw this, where Kevin Samuels is critiquing a black woman for not smiling, as if she's not possibly a descendant of American slaves with a history of mammies, for instance, right? For a history of mammies, of a woman smiling, of a woman taking care of children, right?
Here's the thing, bro. Jesse, here's the thing about this specifically is I side with Kevin Samuels in terms of taking accountability. So it's going to be very hard to have a conversation with me when we're talking about
accountability in what way?
When we're talking about black women smiling or being agreeable, being a direct influence from slavery. When we're talking about a black woman in 2021, you know what I'm saying? I am all for accountability. If you want to be chosen, show choosing signals. If you want a man to approach you, maybe look approachable. I understand. I get, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't do the whole white people are the reason for all of our downfall.
Exactly. So does white supremacy exist or not? Does white supremacy exist or not? We can go directly there.
Does white supremacy exist or not? There are ideas of white supremacy.
Okay, so yeah, we could go ahead and end this conversation. My name is none of your business, by the way. You've been running away from my conversations this whole entire time like a bitch. So you can just go ahead and call me that, right? So at the end of the day, when you try to advise people with a history that goes all the way back to slavery of breaking up a family, and then you basically say that institutional racism doesn't exist, that white people don't have an agenda to actually break up our families and they benefit from that, right? And you try to advise black families, right, in some sort of remasticated MGTOW BS that or failed IDMOR ideology, right? It falls short. So when you talk about Kevin Samuels, he's just marketing a product to black women where he previously couldn't market that product to black men. He previously tried to demoralize and dehumanize black men. That didn't work out, so he did it to black women. I have a real big problem with that mentality. Does white supremacy exist? I'm sure. Okay. Am I going to point out every single white person that I walk into on the street and say you're a racist because white supremacy exists? No, I can't do that. Why? Because when you start doing things like that, you start grouping people into what is the word for it? Identity politics, okay? And identity politics are very dangerous to when it gets to a certain point, because this is how you get genocide, people. People have to understand that identity politics, the literal, this is how you get a Hitler, okay? Saying that all white people are bad, so I gotta go out and feel upset with them or feel some kind of way towards them because I expect them to treat me differently. Okay, this is how you get slavery. Literally the same idea of identity politics. Judge people based on their individual actions, okay? If somebody's an asshole to you, that guy is an asshole to you. Okay, that one guy. That doesn't mean that everybody's an asshole. Wouldn't it be unfortunate if I wasn't allowed to have or people thought of me as a drug dealer or a gangbanger because what they see on TV? Wouldn't that be unfortunate? Okay, I get the argument. I get what he's saying. I cannot get into a mode where I am judging people. I can't judge individuals based on what a whole group has done.
Okay, especially if it's their elders, it's their ancestors as well. Okay, now are there still places where white folks probably have an advantage in America? Yes, I'm sure there are. Or if there's a white manager and he's hiring people because of tribalism and that being a big part of human history, when he looks at a white person, will he feel more empathy naturally because that's how we all are? Probably. So will he more likely get the job? Maybe so. But what do you do about that? You build your own business. Okay? You get your own places of power. You don't allow that idea to slow you down. Okay? You have to fight past that. All right? And I can't allow my own people to bully me into a mindset where I'm angry at people. Okay? I'm angry at individuals because of an advantage they may have in life that had nothing to do with them, an inherited advantage. I understand that it's there, and I hope that they understand that it's there, but I don't want anything given to me either. I don't want you to get me into school because you feel like I'm a dumb black dude and I can't get the grades myself. I want to work for it. It's something, I don't know, maybe it's me. It's something about me. I just like to work hard for things. Okay? I like to go out and be creative, to be resourceful, put it together, and figure it out. I don't want it to be given to me because you look at me as a pity party. Okay, I want to go out and earn it. And the idea that Kevin Samuels was trying to degrade black men and he got upset that he wasn't getting big, so he wants to go degrade black women, that makes no sense. Okay, telling a man that, and this is a viral clip, I'll post it in the description below. I'm gonna have some links in the description below. But telling a man that you're 30, you're 35, because this is what Kevin Samuels did in the video. A guy was saying that women aren't approaching him and this and that. He can't get a woman. Turns out the man is 35. He's like 5'7", and he's like 225 pounds. Well, what do you mean? You can't get it? No, and you have no approach skills. And the guy said he made like $22K a year or something like that. What woman is going to want to procreate with a man that isn't producing? Okay, that's the whole point of procreation. It is with the objective to make humans better over time. That's the whole point of it. So I don't understand how that's trying to tear down a black man by telling him his shortcomings so he could go out and better himself. And I feel the same way when it comes to the women and Kevin Samuels being on the women. Now, does he make a spectacle out of it? Does he make a show out of it? I'm sure. He's passing into the mainstream. I'm sure he makes a little show out of it. Okay, we get it. But at the end of the day, it's not about the message or the messenger. It's about the message, okay? People, like, you got to stop worrying about how people come off. Anybody that's trying to talk to you too nice is trying to sell you something a lot of the times. When there's nothing wrong with you, that person wants something from you. Trust me, okay? The person that is by your side that's telling you everything is good and okay, they want something from you. Think about the stuff that Donald Trump has done, okay? There was nobody on his side telling him, nah, bro, that's dumb. Don't do that. That's dumb. Why? Because everybody around him wants something. They want something out of the deal. So anytime there's people not giving you constructive criticism for what you could do better, you got to get some new people around you. So I can't see how that's Kevin Samuels trying to tear down a black man or black woman. But let's continue the video because I got a lot to say. The videos, I'll probably only go for a certain amount of time, and then I'll put the link in the description if you want to go hear the full discussion, quote unquote. But I'll tell y'all the point in which I kind of stopped listening. The views were going up. The money was pouring in from people wanting to tell Jesse that this is absolutely ridiculous what he's saying. So I'm allowing them to keep talk. If I'm an analytics kind of guy, if he's performing well, if the views are going up, if people are interested, this is something people want to hear, I will allow him to do it. I'll let him sit there and talk. Now, is it going to affect me personally? Probably not. Not until we sit down and have a debate or a discussion where we bring facts and statistics against it. But a lot of the times that's hard because there's so much emotion involved. Okay, so will it ever happen? I don't know. But I maybe we'll have him back on so we can actually have this discussion / debate. But let's continue the video.
When you talk about Dr. Umar Johnson, he did the exact same thing. He's dehumanizing black women, but at the very least, he's offering somewhat of a tangible product in the form of his child psychology, but he's just as bad as Kevin Samuels. The reason why is because he's talking to black people, but he's not talking about descendants of American slaves. But when you talk directly to that market, you have to identify with, I don't know, Jim Crow. You have to identify with the history of slavery and raping people.
Jesse.
Exactly.
This is
I get it. Okay, I get
Yeah,
it.
you've been running from me, so it's all good. You can apologize for that too.
Jesse,
Yeah,
let's. What are we doing right now?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well, we're doing what we have to do since you're running like a bitch. We're doing what we have to do. That's what we're doing.
see, this is why a lot of people are against the conversation between Kevin Samuels and Dr. Umar, because some people can't hold their emotions accountable. If some people
Oh,
aren't accountable for their emotions,
there's no emotions here. At the end of the day, they're
you're
both wrong.
bro,
At
you're
the end of the day, they're both wrong.
I
Prove
get
me
where you're
wrong.
going. I get where you're
Okay.
going, okay?
No, you don't.
But don't allow yourself, and what I'm telling you is be responsible for what goes on. Don't allow yourself to fall victim because of some ideology that people are oppressing. You can't fall into that, because you will then become.
See, that's the problem. So you live in a world that you're trying to market as well. You're trying to build a YouTube channel that you could do the exact same blueprint as
That's
Kevin
true.
Samuels, as eventually
That's
have
not
multiple
true.
streams of revenue coming from your podcast at some point in time. You're doing the exact same thing. So you're just trying to market a product on the slow track. At the end of the day, you're not trying to actually address anything, because you may have to go in front of, I don't know, a corporate company in order to get some sort of marketing deal or get some sort of distribution at some point, right? Just like Kevin Samuels eventually will have to do that if he wants to expand his base, which he's somewhat already doing by being on the Joe Budden podcast, right?
So kind of what he's saying here, and I get it. And if you believe what he believes, and if you follow people who teach this idea, this would be something that they would want to hear. And this idea is that anybody who doesn't speak about slavery and everything they talk about is in some way trying to integrate with the white community. They're basically, he's saying we're tap dancing around the conversation of slavery in order to integrate with the white community eventually. I mean, when I got into rugby, okay, when I got into rugby, it's a white dominated sport. It's a European sport, okay, and this is where football comes from, by the way, for people who don't know. In rugby, you have to touch the ball on the ground to score, and in football, they call it a touchdown, even though you don't have to touch the ball on the ground anymore. So this is where football comes from, but it is a very European sport. I'm there. I am the only black person there, okay, and we hate me as a black person, I don't like identity politics and group identity politics, just because people will judge me as an individual based on my skin color, even in other countries, because I've been to 12 different countries. So I understand that. And I still conduct myself in a way where I represent my culture well, okay? This is what we're not going to do. I'm not going to allow someone to tell me I'm against my culture if I don't want to put fear into the people that are around me every day. Okay? I'm not going to allow someone to bully me into believing that I'm a sellout, because this is the word that a lot of folks use whenever other people want to go on and do for themselves and the community. Because, by the way, that is what I want to do. Not only would I like to build an empire based off of YouTube, I would love that, but I want to also go and give back and share with the people who have gotten me here. Okay? So why is that wrong? Why is that considered a sellout, but a person that want to sit on their butt all day isn't a sellout? How am I the sellout, but a person that sells drugs in his own community isn't a sellout? And I know I'm sounding real conservative here, right? I'm sounding real Republican. And a lot of people probably got that idea of me, but I'm not. I'm pretty much in the middle. I have things I agree with and things I disagree with both sides of the party. And if you want my vote, you're going to have to tell me what you want to do for black people. Okay? That's where I'm at in my life. All right, so I'm not going to be bullied and be worried about being called a sellout because I want to go out and build capital so that I can take that capital back and help people in my community. I can't do that. I can't allow that to hold me back. The word sellout, or the idea that I may become a sellout. Or are there black folks that do get to that level and then don't want to give back? Yes, I'm sure. That's a problem. And that's something that I'm always conscious of. Okay, I don't want to get to a certain level and then feel like, oh, well, they got to help themselves. Yes, you do have to help yourselves, but I'm going to try to give back resources so that it's easier for young black folks to maybe have a platform. I'm going to share with them what I had to go through, things that I had to do to get this platform, to maybe help the next Kevin Samuels or O'Shea, like how O'Shea went back and helped Kevin Samuels to become what he is now. Maybe that's something that I could do, but first I got to get a platform before I can get there. All right, and y'all be trying to kill a person before y'all even figure out what his real intentions are because they aren't doing what you want them to do. Let's continue the video. I'll probably go for one more clip, then just go ahead and dive into my final thoughts. And I'll leave the link in the description if anybody wants to go back and listen to the whole take. At some point, I just kind of went out of it. I'm just reading comments, and I'm blind. Y'all know I wear the glasses normally, so it's kind of hard to read the comments. So he's going to be talking, and I'm going to be sitting there reading comments and not really even replying. Let's continue the video.
Little people who try to pimp out black issues, right? Or target your audience to black people because you wish you could target your audience to white people. You wish you could be a Sandman or a Happy Hermit or somebody else in the wider MGTOW space, but you can't, so you have to market it to black people. What you want to do in order to make sure that you get in those rooms eventually is ignore the fact that white supremacy actually exists. We have black people being shot in the back right now. Literally shot in the back of the head while running away. But that completely doesn't, that escapes people who are trying to talk about the manosphere. We have black men systematically denied wealth.
Can I interject?
Go ahead.
Where does it benefit to tell? And I am for educating young black boys, especially specifically on this.
I don't know what black boys are. Please
kind of how I handle these situations, these emotional situations.
I'm not going to follow what you want me to say because you're being aggressive.
At the end of the day, when you're talking about,
are you going to allow me to say my point, or are you going to become emotional?
Go ahead, say your point.
Okay, what I want to say and what I want to touch on is, yes, there are tragedies that happen. There are black people that get killed by police officers. Okay, but do I benefit my young son? I'm going to explain to him that this can happen. Yes, and this does happen. But out of 100 million black people, let's say it's 50 million. 3 black people get killed in a year from police brutality. I understand that it is a travesty, and if I was a part of that, I would be devastated. But what power am I giving my child if I tell him don't go outside because police are killing black people? It sounds like it would just scare him to me. It sounds like it would push him out of circles that could bring economic power to him. I'm not understanding. At what point
okay. Nobody would give a hyperbolistic answer to a child as in don't go outside because a police officer could possibly kill you.
He's not getting the fact that I was only saying that because I'm saying I don't want to install fear into my children. I don't want them to live a life of fear. For example, there are some parents out there that don't want their kids to go outside. And as a result of that, we see a massive increase of obesity. Okay, we have morbidly obese children because parents, mothers specifically, but parents generally are afraid of their children going outside. Okay, they've installed that fear in their children to not go outside. All right, what's more likely, dying of heart disease or becoming obese for the rest of your life, or being abducted by a sex offender? Both are horrible, okay? I understand. I understand the whole sex offender thing. I understand if y'all are parents that this is a thing that people are concerned about. But statistically speaking, obesity is going to kill more children than quote-unquote sex offenders, okay? So we have to be... What my point is I'm saying I don't want to install that fear because that fear creates a person that doesn't want to go out and get what he needs to get to do what he needs to do in his life. That fear creates people that don't want to have a conversation with a white dude because he feels like he already knows what that white dude is about and that white dude is out to kill him. That fear makes young black boys want to drive away while police officers are trying to hold him from driving away, which results in a white woman killing a black kid. Okay? I know that's a touchy subject. That may be a topic for another time. That happened here in Minnesota, by the way. That was in Minnesota. And I am completely against that. Obviously, you, as a person that's been in the field for 28 years, you should know that your taser is not your gun. I am a gun owner, so you definitely know the difference, number one. And number two, I don't believe that white women should be policing black boys. That makes no sense to me. The history between white women and black kids has just been it hasn't been good. All right, and then you're talking about women who are obviously have a natural fear for men because they're just physically weaker, and then you put being a black boy into that mix. I don't believe that white women should be policing at all, really, because why not have a man in that position? But I don't believe that they should be policing black boys specifically. So I will say that right away if y'all want me to go into some race thing, okay? But regardless of that fact, All right. I don't want to install that fear into my children because I feel like in 2021 you have to be integrated in order to get to capital. Now, what you want to do with that capital afterwards is what you want to do with it. But you have to integrate. You have to be willing to work with different people from different cultures to get to where you want to go. It takes. You can, for $1,000, for $10,000, you can work a job. And this is a meme I've seen somewhere. Okay, so I'm not taking credit for this. But for $10,000, you can work a job. For $100,000, you got to start working smart. Okay, working a job ain't gonna get you there unless you're heavily invested and it takes a long time. But for $1 million, you need a team. Okay, so in that team, you have to be willing to work with different people. I don't want to install fear into my kids because I want them to be able to work with people in order to get to where they got to get. But let's continue the conversation.
If you're doing that, then I think you probably shouldn't have children. But at the end of the day, having a larger conversation, like, for instance, if that child is a descendant of American slaves, telling that child, hey, police started with slave patrols. Okay, they started as slave patrollers. This is the reason why. That's why they have a certain mentality. That is their purpose.
To my knowledge,
that
is
their
true,
reason for existing. And regardless of whether or not you see exceptions to the rules, that is the root of the tree, right? See, that lack of context means that you are not guiding that child correctly, right? That's what I'm talking about. So if you were to have a conversation based on the fact that, hey, these people started as slave patrollers. They used to go out and run out and kidnap your grandparents and take them back to the plantations. That's how they started. Then they transitioned into police officers, and they had roles in a large amount of unsolved murders back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They allowed a large amount of KKK members to lynch your grandparents, and that's the reason why you should have. That's the reason why you should have fear of those individuals for a certain degree.
No, and
right?
I want to, because
exactly.
I think you're bringing some entertainment value to this channel. And
entertainment value. I know. I know.
Right now, I appreciate that. I appreciate the strong views. I appreciate the passion in the topic.
Yeah, run.
Okay, but I do have to ask you this.
Yeah.
What's the end game here? Like, what do you?
The end game is that my end game is this.
I got you. Let me just give a little bit more context to the question. Because a lot of people would say that Kevin Samuels and Dr. Umar Johnson could not have this conversation because Umar Johnson is going to throw out the race card, and that's where we're going to be stuck for the rest of the duration of where we are. You know what I'm saying? He's going to talk about some infrastructure that is suppressing black people to the point where we can't go further in life. He's going down that spiel. And the problem is we don't have an exact pinpoint for where this discrimination is coming from. All right, so I'm just asking you, where do you think this? Well, let me ask you this: who are the people that are suppressing us so much in society?
Let's start with Joe Biden. Let's start there. The author of the '94 crime bill. How many black people actually went to jail because of that? How many black men specifically? Since this is a regurgitated mid-more sort of conversation, how many black men went to jail because of Joe Biden?
Are you asking me to answer that question?
What we need to ask is how many black women voted Joe Biden into office because Kamala Harris was there. Kamala Harris, however y'all want to say her name. All right. How many black men also supported that vote? And I mean, it was between her and Trump. I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to get into who you should vote for or who you shouldn't vote for. I'm not here for politics, but if we want to talk about that, we want to talk about what Joe Biden has done to black people. It was the lack of education that made black women want to vote him into the office. Okay, it was the lack of education that also led black men to put him into office. So while you can just blame, okay, Joe Biden's doing this and that to exploit black people, this and that, where is our responsibility in that equation, and what can we do in the future to not go down that same rabbit hole? These are the questions and the solutions these are the questions for the solutions we need. We need questions for solutions, not statements of problems. We already understand the problems. Let's continue the video though. I want to get to a specific point and then I'm going to be done. I think that point is coming up shortly. So let's just keep going.
I'm asking you. Yeah.
How am I supposed to answer that question?
Would you say more than one? Would you say more than one? Would you say more than 100,000? Would you say more than 50,000? I
would say for sure more than one. And I'm going to let you talk. And I hope you understand that me letting you talk isn't you winning this intellectual.
No, I
can ask where this is going. And I'll just go ahead and let it keep going because I think it's bringing some value.
You asked the question. I'm giving you an answer. You said, where does it start? We can start there and we can go work our way back, right? So how many people Joe Biden enhanced the amount of crimes that were available for the death penalty. How many black men were on death row because of Joe Biden?
I'm not getting the solution here.
It doesn't. Okay, so I'm not required to provide you a solution while I'm proving the point that there's a problem. Okay, I'm on one side of the coin. I'm proving that there's a problem. We can get to a solution later. I actually do have a solution for that, but we're proving that there's a problem. You're saying that there's no systematic institutional racism or white supremacy or no effects to black men. You're basically trying to say that.
I never said that. I said we couldn't pinpoint it.
I can pinpoint it. I could pinpoint it as early as that individual. I could pinpoint. You just brought up the Asian hate crime bill, right? Why is it that quote unquote black people voted Joe Biden into office? We are the people who pushed him over the edge, but yet and still there's no actual hate crime executive orders for our community. Do you think that that's?
Let me guess, because of slavery.
No.
Well, if I were to really give an answer to that, because obviously in the moment, at this point I'm already out of it. I'm reading comments if you guys haven't noticed, and like I said, I can't really see well, so I'm really focused on trying to read the comments and see what people are thinking and seeing if people are responding well to this. But the reason, if you ask me why I think that Asian Americans got that bill so quick, okay? It took them 2 weeks. What are we doing? 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it may have been. It's less than a year. All right, they have policies put into place to protect Asian Americans from discrimination. Okay. Well, the Asians in America are respected because they have community. Okay, they know what they want and they are willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want for their community. Okay, a lot of them happen to be Republican, so they're going to vote Republican as a whole, as a community. The problem with black people is we're too separated. We don't know what we want. People want reparations. They don't know in what way they want the reparation. Do you want a check? Do you want a monthly check? Do you want it in the form of education? Do you want it in business grants? We have no direction as a community. With direction and with community comes power. Okay, who are we going to vote for this election? Well, who has to offer us more? Who has more to offer us? Okay, and that's where we're going to take our vote. All right, so the Asian community really got into that place of power and got what they wanted so quick because they're respected. People know that the Asian community are very united. They're very traditional. They stick to their own. And regardless of Asian women going out and dating white men now at higher numbers, this is not something that Asian men are just sitting down for. Okay, when black boys go out and date white women and black girls go out and date white men, we don't have anything to say about it. They stay as a community and they hold their culture close to them. Okay, and am I saying that I'm not getting into it. Am I saying interracials shouldn't have relations? I don't care. Do what you want. I'm just saying they have community. All right, they have community, and that's why they're respected, because there might not be that many of them, but they're all together. Okay, and that's what we need more of in our community. Less division like this, where we're calling each other sellouts just because we have two different ways of going about the same problem. Same with Kevin Samuels and Dr. Umar. There's no need to do this over the internet because there's two people that want results for the same problem. Why not have a sit down and have the conversation for how we both can get to the result or to the solution to the same problem? Let's continue the video, though. I'm getting to the part that I want to get to. I think it's closer than ever. Let's keep going.
No, I can tell you specifically. See, you want to play games with it because you don't respect slavery. If you brought that up like that, I can tell you right now you don't respect the history of your supposed lineage, right? Nobody who has that lineage would play around like that. So, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you the reason why. The reason why
you did in the comment section.
The reason why is because Joe Biden has to appeal to those white people, those white racists who actually supported Donald Trump. And in order to do that, he has to have some sort of legitimacy. In order to do that, he has to not do anything for us, right? So we could go back to the 94 crime bill. We could talk about crack disparities in sentencing. We could talk about the overall war on drugs. We could go back to the 60s and civil rights movement. We could go back to redlining, convict leasing, Jim Crow, and slavery. All right, we could go all the way back to this nice little thin line of repeated action.
He's making good points.
We can even go to the 13th Amendment, right?
These are all real things.
But we're here now. I know you watched the documentary on Netflix. I get
a documentary.
Right?
Wow.
Let me get into it a little bit. All right.
Go ahead.
I'm not hearing solutions, and it doesn't sound like you want to give it.
Wow.
I mean,
I do. We could do solutions. We could do solutions. Let's start right here. Number one, if anybody's talking about relationships specifically targeting, I'm not talking about black people. If you want to use the word black, in my opinion, you're not speaking directly to descendants of American slaves.
No one cares, but go ahead. No one cares.
Largest group of people in this country.
Yeah, he's saying his opinion. I'm not speaking on in his. No one cares about your opinion. That's the most overrated thing about Americans. People think that people care about your opinion. They don't care about your opinion. No one cares. Stop giving it. All right? No one cares. Let's keep going, though. Especially if you have no credibility and you don't have a platform to back you up. If you have a platform and credibility, people might care. But just some regular Joe Schmo that's not even willing to turn on his camera because he's hiding and saying that I'm hiding or running or whatever he may say. He's just come on as two different aliases. He's used two different aliases to get onto the show, and he's saying that I'm running, and he's not even got his camera on. I mean, what are we doing? No one cares about your opinion, okay? Get a platform. Get some clout. I don't know. No one cares. Let's keep going.
40 million strong. So you're not talking about us. That's number one. But if you're going to talk directly to us, my solution for that problem is you have to speak in context with white supremacy. So when you're holding out standards for black men, for instance, you have to put that in perspective. Like, hey, black men, when you're forming a relationship with a black woman, right, you're gonna have institutional things that's gonna try to tear that relationship apart. First of all, you need to realize that when you're creating children within that environment, that's the best environment for those children, for it to be in a two-parent household, for those parents to be married, and for that house to be male-led. But all those things are counter institutionally to the society at large. I'm speaking solutions. Do you not want to hear it?
Here's what you got to understand, though. I never disagreed that slavery has had an effect on Americans. What I'm saying, or black African Americans, or when we talk about whatever you may want to call it, I never said that I disagree with that. All I'm saying is we're here now, and the only way we can get out of it is with self-accountability.
All you're saying right now is, so you're an advocate for bootstrap levitation, anti-gravity levitation. You're of the notion that if I pull on my bootstraps long enough, I'll float in midair. You're of that notion, correct?
No, I'm of the notion of building platforms like the Poor Man Podcast, which will be at 40,000 subscribers by June, by the way, and trying to have these difficult conversations.
Oh, okay. So Derek Jackson had a platform too. Does that mean anything?
We could go off of everybody's, tough times in their lives. Everybody's going to have tough times in their lives. I just feel you shouldn't be subject to them. I believe that you shouldn't be a victim to them. You should find your way, because that's what life is about. Everybody has hardships. Black people, if you had more, black people may have had more because of slavery. People don't care. Okay, they only care about productivity, and you can see that people don't care because black people have been complaining about slavery for forever, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere. Where's complaining about slavery gotten us?
So is Kevin Samuels your personal mentor? Is that what's going on here?
What?
Is he like a model behavior of what you're trying to do as a man? Is Kevin Samuels somebody who you look up to? Is that what's going on?
Okay, Jesse. It was an interesting one, folks.
Yeah, run. There you go. There you go. Run. There you go. Exactly.
Exactly. What could we possibly talk more of? And you're right. I don't want
I was in the middle of actually giving a solution to the problem, but you want to devalue it. So because you have an ignorance of history, you're actually advocating, hey, fuck history. I don't care about history. History has an effect on every single thing that has to do with your present, but fuck history. We could take examples from history. We could take examples for what we should do in the future from history, but fuck history. Let's just worry about today, right? That's your modus operandi. That's a way of creating a constant buyer of your future product, which is what Kevin Samuels is trying to do. He's trying to give women a standard. He literally on his podcast or on that April 16th broadcast said that black women should actually look to white women in order to figure out how to keep men. And you clearly don't have a problem with that, right? You don't see any problem with that. If you have no sense of history, I guess you wouldn't. I guess it would be completely okay with you for him to say some stupid shit like that. All right? women, white women who have a history of enslaving people as well in this country, right? That's okay with you. If somebody is talking about black relationships and they don't bring up about slavery or white supremacy, they're not specifically talking about descendants of American slaves. You should completely ignore what the fuck they're saying. All they're talking about is generic shit that's really not going to work for you specifically. And a key indicator is somebody who keeps on saying black as opposed to being specific about their target audience. Because I have nothing in common with the Nigerian. I have nothing in common with the Caribbean person. Their history is somewhat loosely tangled with mine, so far as their interaction with white supremacy or colonization. But it actually has no specific direct ties to me as a descendant of American slaves. So if Kevin Samuels is talking to black people, he's not talking to me. If Umar Johnson is talking to black people, he's not talking to me. Somebody has to be talking directly to me with my history in their mind as they're trying to solve solutions. If you have, for instance, if you have a woman who has a history of promiscuity in her lifetime, and she's coming to you to get advice about her relationships, you need to know that history.
One second. I'm sorry. One second. I'm hearing you. I get where you're going. People keep sending in super chats to get this man to understand that I can't. What am I doing? What are we doing? All right. Keep talking. I'm listening to you, but I'm gonna just let people building up the volume here. I'm listening. I'm listening, by the way. But people keep sending in super chats and letting them know what's going on. And by the way, I am a capitalist. I do believe that you should go out and get your own, but also give back to the people who have helped you get there. That's where I am. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and talk about blaming white folks for our problems. That's gotten us nowhere. It's gotten us nowhere, if we're completely honest about the topic. But I will let you continue, though, if you want to keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. At the end of the day, I think that you represent a sort of ignorant class of black people. I think that you represent like the class of black people who have had a huge amount of white friends. And somehow you think that somehow racism hasn't touched your life or won't touch your life in the future. You're the type of person that eventually will get a black wake up call at some point in time in your life where you have to realize, oh, racism does exist. White supremacy does exist, right? And I think, unfortunately, that's probably going to happen to you sooner rather than later.
Okay. And when he says this, I am from Wilmington, North Carolina. Okay. You don't think that I've experienced some kind of my dad, when he wanted to start his story, by the way, and if anybody knows anything about the history of Wilmington, North Carolina, I believe there was the only time that a white mob took over the government and completely just killed hundreds of black people, by the way. And this happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. But it was a massacre. But whatever. Let's continue. My dad, he wanted to open a clothing store in Wilmington, North Carolina. He wanted a certain location. He went in to talk to a guy about a certain location. That guy happened to be white. When my dad said, "Can I have this location?" This is what the man said. The man said, "Do you hear that?" My dad said, "No." He looked around. He said, "No, I don't hear anything." He said, "Exactly. And that's how we want to keep it." So to say and to sit and act like I don't understand racism or whatever it may be, just because that's what you want to believe because it would help you with your argument, I'm not going to say these things here. I don't care, because when I talk to him, he's not going to be able to. All he's going to try to do is get me onto an emotional level with him, so that I will go down this path of just insults. And we're on the internet, man. You're not here in person. All right, anybody who knows me personally knows that I don't have any problem with physical altercations. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. And I believe that sometimes it's the best way to solve solutions. When people want to bully you and think that you're weak and think that you can't defend yourself, they will continue to do that. So sometimes, yes, to stop that bullying, you have to go up and show them like, this ain't the one. This ain't it. All right? So I'm not for or against physical altercations. Now, do I try to find diplomatic solutions? Yes, obviously before any time, but I'm not against it. But I'm not going to present that on the internet. Like these dudes talk about, I'm going to fight you, this and that. We're on the internet. Grow up. You're not going to fight anybody. You're on the internet. All right, now if the person was there, maybe it will be a different, we'd see what happens. But he's not even showing his face. Okay, I'm not going to go down this emotional, oh, you're this and this and that. I can't do that, okay? I can't do that. It looks horrible. I'm not going to be sitting there arguing with another black dude, yelling at him, calling him all kinds of insults. Let's continue the video. We're almost to the part that I want to get to, okay? We're almost to that point. Hang in there. I know some of y'all got the attention spans of a chicken sandwich, but all right, hang in there. Let's keep going.
But at the end of the day, for the other people who actually understand the use of history, right, as opposed to just moving forward in life, hoping to get lucky, hoping to be an exception to the rule, right? See, that's the other problem. So when you're talking about exceptions to the rule, right, at the end of the day, the rule still exists. So if you are a complete exception to the rule, this guy, yeah, this guy.
No, listen, you said if I was a complete exception to the rule.
If you are an exception to the rule, then what's the rule, right? If an exception to the rule is, hey, there's a guy out there who married his high school sweetheart and they're together, she's faithful, and they've had 3 kids, would you build a platform around that? No, right? That's not the rule. That's an exception to the rule. If the rule for black men and black society, or specifically descendants of American slaves in America, is a system, is constantly dealing with the system of white supremacy, right? Exceptions to that rule can't be modeled. For instance, Kevin Samuels is an exception to that rule. That exception to that rule can't be modeled for other people and other behaviors. All right. So at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're advocating for exceptionalism, which is delusion, right? You're setting a huge amount of people up for failure, hoping that they can obtain something that they can't really obtain because the realities on the ground is actually different than what they're actually going to experience. So, for instance, Kevin Samuels giving out advice to women blanketly for black women, not for descendants of American slaves, just blanketly for black women, right? Hoping that that's going to actually help them if they're just meek, if they just quote unquote look at other white women and figure out what those white women want and model their behavior after those white women. They think, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to get a relationship with a black man and everything is going to be fine. That is not the case. There are pressures and societal pressures that are going to be on that couple that are different from other couples, right? So at the end of the day, a non-specific message is useless. There's other issues associated with Christianity with Kevin Samuels that go back to that same history, but that's more of identifying prosperity pimps more so than anything else. That still applies to Kevin Samuels.
So do you think that you can't go to a certain avenue of your life because
this is what I wanted y'all to hear?
Do you feel
let me pause this and backtrack a little bit because this is the part that I wanted y'all to hear. Because this is all that really matters to me. Let's hear it though. I just rewinded a little bit so we can hear it again.
Pimps more so than anything else. That still applies to Kevin Samuels.
So do you think that you can't go to a certain avenue of your life because there's a glass ceiling? Do you feel like you specifically, I mean, you as a person, you as a man, as a competitive being in the world right now, do you feel like there's a spot that you can't get to or obtain because you have to be white or a part of this white supremacy structure? Is there like what do you feel like?
Let's put this in very clear perspective. I've been on projects. I have 11 years of experience in my field of work, right? I've been on a project where there's a white coworker with 0 experience, right? That white coworker came on with a horrible attitude. Everybody else on the team hated that white coworker, hated him because of his inability to effectively communicate. He would talk down to people, start verbal arguments with people. You know what that individual is? He got eventually hired on as from a contractor to a full-time employee. He continued that same behavior. Everybody, I'm talking about a team of like 20 to 25 people, of multicultural people, right? Everybody had a problem with this individual. You know what happened after that? He got hired as a senior project manager at the same company with no experience, no PMP certification, no nothing. I've seen racism. I've seen white supremacy in action.
Okay. But do you feel like it holds you down specifically as an individual?
Yes, absolutely. You know, in my field, I can say specifically as an engineer, in my field, what is expected of a black man when he gets onto a project as an engineer is for him to come on and be able to do all of that work day one. Not in 2 months or 3 months whenever he is adjusted like other people can. They can ramp up their time period. No, as a black engineer, we get our stuff dumped on us day one. And we're expected to be able to do everything day one. We get hired. Black people get hired. Black people get hired for what we could do day one. White people get hired for what they could do potentially in 2 to 3 months.
Okay, so you as an engineer, which is a very respectable field, by the way, and I tip my hat off to you for that because that takes a lot of grit. But you as an engineer, with knowing that information, are you then going to allow that to keep you in the same position, or are you going to fight against that to become better and higher up so that you can potentially change some of those things put in place?
Listen, we could talk about it from a different perspective. So we could talk about it from this perspective. Let's say you're on a project. You're an engineer. You're making $190,000 a year, right? Nothing to shoot the shit at, right? You're making some good money, right? And then let's say you're unemployed for 8 months after you lose a position, all right? Let's say you're unemployed for 8 months. A large amount of that money you saved up goes where? Especially if you hold yourself to a standard to say, hey, I want the same position or higher going forward. Well, where do you think it goes? What do you think the hiring manager is thinking about when they're offering you a salary? What do you think they're doing?
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All that is, okay, I get it. All right.
No. Those are specific examples.
Are you as an engineer going to allow these things to keep you in the same place?
It's not about allow.
Or are you going to go against those things and do the work necessary to prosper?
It's not about allow. It's not about allow. See, I could try to have a real conversation with a.
Okay, guys. That's just the point that I wanted to get to, and I will give my final thoughts. I know this was a really long video. And I'll leave a link to the video in the description. But number one, me and Kevin Samuels don't only talk about black women, and I mean, I don't even think me and Kevin Samuels are really. We're in the same niche. Okay, I'm not gonna act like we're not. We share a lot of the same viewpoints, okay? He talks about high-value men specifically, though, a lot of the times. Every now and then he'll chime in. But when you see him on the Fresh and Fit podcast, he's not talking to only black women. He's talking to majority white women, actually. So to say that we're only talking to black women and so we need to incorporate slavery into our message doesn't make sense to me. I know these things as this debate is going on, as he's trying to get me emotional, and I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to take the bait is what I'm doing. But also this is where I am as a man right now. Okay. When my daughter needs something, when my future daughter needs something, I can't tell her no because the white man is holding me down. Okay. When my future daughter needs to maybe go to college, who knows? Maybe she wants to do something. Maybe she's sought out something that she wants to do. When she wants to have a wedding with her husband. When she wants to get braces because her teeth are messed up. I can't tell her no because of white supremacy. All right? That's not where I am in my game. All right? I got to go and get it. I got people that rely on me. Okay? I got people who need me around. Black folks, a lot of y'all do. Especially the hardworking men in our communities. And that's why this message of victimhood only resonates with black women and in a very few amount of black men. What historically speaking, black men have been conservative. Okay, we have always been willing to work hard. Now, there are the few of us that do want to use race as an excuse, and those are the ones that seem to be on all these main media platforms. But for the most part, we all understand race. We all know it exists. We're not saying we don't know it exists. We're not even saying that it doesn't affect us in the current. But what we are saying is our family needs something, and I got to go to work in the morning. I have to find a way to provide when my wife wants this or my aunt needs that or a lot of black men are in a very matriarchal situation where there are a lot of women around them that they have to support by themselves. And how do they do that? By working very hard. 65% of black men are in the middle class or the middle class or higher middle class, and that is because of hard work. Okay? That is what black men believe in, and that's what I have to believe in. I cannot future me can't tell my daughter that you can't get what you want in life because white supremacy is holding you down. I can't tell my son that, okay? I can't tell my nephews that. Not me. That's not how I live my life. I understand that people might have these opinions and this and that. I can't live my life like that. Go get it and then bring it back to your community. That's my rhetoric. That's what I think. But I guess if you do that, you're a sellout. All right. That's the end of the video, y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. I know this is a long one. If you made it to this point, congrats. I mean, you know, there's a lot of videos on YouTube. So if you made it all the way here, tip my hat to you. That means you can actually pay attention. You know, that's fleeting nowadays. But till next time.